this, we are going to go over one of the drawing practices that we did in class. So if you were not here in class with us at the time, you can do this on your sketchbook or in your sketchbook, I guess. And that way you can submit it online and get credit for it. Okay, so we did a bunch of different portrait practices because portrait drawing can be kind of scary. It's kind of intimidating, and especially if you've drawn something that looks less realistic for all of your life, trying to draw more realistic is kind of scary. Okay, so previously in our first video, we did our first draw just to see where you were at. And then we did a practice draw where we just drew a generic person all together. Okay, we did it together in class. You followed along step by step, and it looked like a little bit more realistic of a person. Okay, but we are doing a practice today so we can focus on drawing actual people instead of just one that comes from our brain. Okay, it still has kind of the same idea, but we want to take into account what somebody's actual face shape looks like because people have different jaw lines and different, people's chins are different. And we want to make sure that we're drawing that person's nose and that person's eyes so that it actually looks more like that person instead of just a generic person. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do in your sketchbook is you're going to divide it in half across this way. Okay, so it's in half here like this. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a line going down the middle here, just like this. Okay, so we're going to have 4 drawings on this paper. Okay, the first one we're going to go over together. Okay, now I'm going to show you kind of what my computer screen looks like, and it's going to get kind of weird for a second, so just bear with me. There is a Google slideshow that is also located in this assignment for you to use. I'm just kind of showing you to get started with. Okay, so we are going to, let me open this up here. Okay, so your Google slides will look like this here. Okay, it says portrait practice. You'll move on. Our first picture that we have is Emma Watson. Then we have some ladies here, we have some men, and we have some elderly people. Okay, and so they all look different. They all have their challenges, okay, of drawing. Each and every one of them, they're all a little bit different. And so your goal is to draw them so they actually look as close to the person as possible. Okay, we're going to do a drawing of Emma Watson together. We're going to go through those steps, and it's totally okay if it doesn't look exactly like Emma Watson. Okay, mine probably won't, just because I feel like when I draw more on a smaller scale, it's harder to make it look more like that person. But we are still going to analyze her face shape, her different her different shapes of her eyes, her bone structure, things of that nature while we're drawing this, okay? So what you want to do is you want to have this video pulled up, but it's also good to have a second window kind of next to it where you can see the picture of Emma Watson, okay? So we're going to draw her together. Then you're going to spend about 10 minutes drawing each of these, one person from each of these slides, okay? So like you'll draw like a lady here in one of your squares that we just drew on our paper. You'll draw one of these guys and one of these senior citizens, okay? So we're gonna move on to Emma Watson. Now, the first thing that we want to look at while we're drawing Emma Watson is we want to focus on her head shape and her face shape, okay? So the top part is going to be kind of a dome, sort of like the regular egg shape that we did, okay? But if you compare the egg shape that we already drew, it doesn't really match her jawline here, right? It's a little, so it kind of angles down here. You can kind of see her cheekbone. It goes kind of straight here, and then it angles in this way, and then her chin is rounded here, right? And then it comes a little more diagonally up here and then comes back up. Okay, so we're going to be drawing that together on our paper, and we're going to show how her face shape actually is, not just a generic regular egg shape. The generic regular egg shape is really good if you're just kind of inventing your own person to draw, right? Because it looks more realistic. But if you're basing it on an actual person, you want to draw what you see in their picture. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move back to our paper here. Okay, so let's see. Make sure I have everything right here. Okay, all right. So you can see I have my paper here on your screen. You should be able to see this video. I would make it a little bit smaller okay? And I would have Emma Watson also pulled up so you can see her. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to I like to start with her jawline first. Okay, so I'm going to draw the kind of like side of her head here like this. And I want to make sure I draw it decently sized on my paper just so I have room. So saying that, actually, I'm going to scoot my line up here just a little bit. Okay, so it kind of comes down here and then it angles in this way like this, maybe down here a little bit more. And then her chin kind of comes in down this way and rounds out. Her head is at a slight tilt, okay? And I can always come back and adjust this if needed, okay? And then I have this area here for her jaw, okay? And then it kind of comes back outwards a little bit like this, okay? So I've focused on from her kind of like the tops of her ears down, right? So just like this, I guess the skin part of her head that I can see, right? So her jawline here. Okay, now I'm going to add the very top of her head, and that's going to come up here, right? And I'm just basically just kind of rounding this out. This actually might be a little bit tall. We'll see. There's always adjustments to be made. Okay, but I feel like this is pretty good so far. Boom. Now, I want to look at how she is in the picture. So normally, if we were drawing just a generic person, we would measure about halfway through. Okay, and that's a good start. So I'm going to measure about halfway through here. Okay, but I also want to look at the outline here and see that her eye line is matching up on the screen with the side of her face, right? So I don't, like, if this is the point of her jaw down here, I don't want to accidentally put her nose down here if that's not where it goes on her actual picture of her face, okay? I want to make sure that I have this lined up because sometimes if somebody has their chin pointed downward, like they're looking down, it's going to change where their eyes fall at on this oval that we have here, okay? If they're looking up a little bit, again, it's going to change it just a little, okay? So I have this slightly rounded here, okay? Doing rounded lines like this helps. These are called contour lines because it shows that her head is rounded, right? It's not like a rectangular prism. It does have a roundness to it, okay? And then I am going to go ahead and draw in where her nose line goes. So that's about halfway here, okay? And I'm looking at her picture and that looks about right for the position that she is in for this picture. Okay, so I'm gonna round this out here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and find halfway. I'm going to move up just a little bit here for the line of her mouth. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and divide down the middle. And she's looking pretty straightforward, so our line is going to go pretty much down the middle. But I'm also going to kind of round it out just a little bit. Okay, do you see how those contour lines actually make this shape now look like maybe it's a little more three-dimensional? Okay, this helps out a lot. So I'm going to start with her eye shape. Now, if I'm looking closely at her eye shape, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put her irises and pupils here. Okay, I don't want to make them too small or too big. Okay, and remember, if you don't have it 100% perfect, that's fine because this is like the second portrait that we've drawn. Okay, and I want to put them kind of in the middle, but I don't want to put them too far out here. Okay, we don't want to have too much space between her eyes. Now, I'm looking at her picture, and her eyelid definitely touches the top part of her iris as well as the bottom part. So I want to make sure that's kind of close. Okay, and I'm noticing that the inner part of her eye, right, the part that's closer to her nose, has a very obvious, it kind of like dips down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to draw that in here. I'm going to draw my regular line, just like I normally would. Okay, and this line here is going to dip down a little bit. And I'm going to kind of softly erase this so it's a little bit easier for you to see my lines on the camera. Okay, so I'm going to erase this just a little here. Not too much because those lines really do help us out, but that way you can see a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down here, and I'm looking at her eyes as I'm doing this. So it comes down here just a little bit. Okay, and then it kind of angles up this way like this. Ooh, I feel like it's a little too much. Okay, bring this down here. There we go. Okay. And then it kind of pops up like this a little here if you're looking at her actual picture, and then it angles down here just a little bit, like that, okay? Now, a lot of people have a similar thing going on in their eyes. It's just for some people, it's a little bit more obvious, right? So for Emma Watson, that's how her eye shape is, a little bit more so, okay? Right, and so I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I'm looking at her picture again. Okay, I'm gonna draw the top part. One of the things that I consider too is how much of the white of her eye can I see, right? How much space is on either side, okay? And then that way I know how much space to put on either side here. My first one you guys saw, I think I drew a little too big. It looked like there's too much space on that side, okay? So I'm bringing this down here, bringing it down this way. Okay, and again, she has a slightly more obvious kind of dip down here, like so. Okay. All right. She actually looks like she's smiling in this picture, huh? Just with her eyes. Okay. Make sure that's right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add in her eyebrows right on top here. And again, I'm looking at her eyebrows specifically, right? So they kind of come close to her eye. So they're not super high up here, but they're kind of close to her eye. And they kind of angle upward just a little bit and then round out here. So I'm drawing that on there. Okay, and notice I'm using kind of sketchy lines to kind of build this in. I'm not just going, okay. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Again, this one's kind of close. And it kind of angles up and then kind of curves down like this. Okay, and if we need to adjust those later, after you have more of the face drawn, we can always go back. Okay, now I'm gonna work on her nose. Okay, the bottom part of her nose, remember when we're drawing a nose, we always start with a small section first, right? So that we start with the kind of U shape. Right, so remember, essentially, we have this first, and then we add in how her nostrils look like this, right? And you can shade those in a little bit, right? And then we add on like the sides, like so, and then we kind of build it up from here. So sometimes it looks like this. Sometimes it has more of a bump like that. It depends on the person, okay? But we always go through the same steps. So I start here, I add in the sides, I add in the nostrils, I add in the sides, and then we build up from there. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing for Emma. Okay, so for her shape, she has kind of her septum is kind of rounded and like kind of a decent U shape here. Okay, so I have that. And again, I'm gonna softly erase this just so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. Okay, I don't wanna erase too much, that way we don't lose our spot. Okay, so we have this kind of U shape here. And then her nostrils in this picture aren't super dark and they're not super, like, it's just the lighting, right? So her nostrils aren't super rounded out. They're kind of flatter, right? So I'm just gonna add that in lightly here. Ugh, I feel like I'm doing this way too dark. I'm gonna start over. Okay. So we're gonna draw this little bit here. And then it comes up this way, like so. Okay, so I've added in that rounded part. Okay, my next step is to add in her nostrils. Okay, and so on the picture, it looks like it kind of comes down this way a little bit, right? And then the outer part of her nostril is actually close to the inner part. So I'm going to take this back in a little bit, like here. Okay, and remember, don't be afraid to make their nose the actual size that it is. Okay, don't make their nose super teeny tiny because you're not saying anything that, like, you're not telling people that they have a big nose. I think that just noses are bigger than maybe what we think they are. Okay, and then I'm adding the shadow on this side for her nostril. And again, it kind of comes close to where her nostril is here and then comes down this way like this. Yeah, right? So it's kind of like that. Now I'm going to go ahead And I'm looking at this middle section of her nose, kind of like the tip of her nose, the part that sticks out the furthest from your face, right? Your nose, what is that, your like bridge? I don't know. If you wear makeup, it's the part that you put like highlighter on. Okay. And so I'm looking at that, and she has kind of a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to bring this up here just a little on both sides. Okay. And then I'm going to kind of draw the bridge of her nose here, kind of angles up this way. I feel like mine is a little narrow, more narrow than what I would like. I'm going to bring it out this way, just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm bringing the rest of her nose right on up this way. So it kind of comes up here like this. Right? And remember, all the lines for the nose don't have to necessarily connect. Okay? Because they're just shadows. They're not actually lines. So I'm going to bring this up here. And then this kind of lines up here. And I'm just keeping this light for now. Okay? And this kind of comes up here. This is her brow line up here. Right? And actually, I feel like even that's a little bit on the narrow side. Okay? I just told you not to make it too small, and here I am. So we're going to bring this up here just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So we have this kind of section here. I'm going to bring this eyebrow up just a tiny bit. Okay. I also, just really quick back thing on her eyes. I do want to kind of draw in her little eyelid area here. Okay. So on her, on the right side, it's a little bit more obvious, her eyelid. Right on the left side, because of how she's standing and maybe just how her like facial features are, it's not as obvious. So it's kind of a little more subtle back this way. Okay. Sometimes when you draw people, they might not have a whole lot of, they might not have a line for their eyelid necessarily, right? Because we have all different types of shapes and sizes of noses, eyes, ears, mouths, all that stuff. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on her mouth. One of the things I want to point out is a lot of times people have a little line, like two lines up here. It's part of like your upper lip. And for her, it's not super obvious, right? That might be because of her like genetics, or it also might just be the lighting. Okay. Regardless of what the cause is, it's not super obvious in the picture. So I'm not really going to draw that in. Now, remember this line here is for the middle of the mouth, right? The parting of the mouth. So I'm going to have a top lip on top of this and a bottom lip down here. Okay. And I start kind of in the middle. And again, we don't want to make them crazy big, so we don't want to exaggerate them. I just want to draw kind of how hers are, right? And we want to angle down here just a little bit, and then we're going to have this kind of like smile down here. Okay, so what happens is essentially the lips come down, and you end up with like a line on each side that really shows the smile, and then the actual like pink part of your lips starts below that a little bit more. So it kind of comes down here like this. Right. And then I'm going to draw in the kind of shape. So it kind of follows the same thing down here a little bit and then angles up. Like so. Okay. Now, what this looks like on a bigger picture, right, is so say that we have our line here, right? Boom. Okay. We start with the middle of our lips like this, right? And everybody's is different. So sometimes people have like pointier lips. Some people have like, it just barely is like a little dip. Okay, look at the person you're drawing's lips. Okay, it's going to angle down this way. And then it's going to come down here, kind of like this. Okay, and then we're going to have this little bit of line on the side, like this. Okay, and then we're going to continue this line forward, and then we'll drop down the bottom lip. Okay, and again, everybody's is a little bit different. So everybody's bottom lip some people might have bigger bottom lips or smaller, or the shape might be different. But for the kind of smile, you'll end up having a little bit of a line on the side. You don't want to make them look like the Joker, of course. Right? But just a little bit of the line on the side shows where you're smiling, and so your lips are pressed together. Okay? Back to her. Okay, so now I have this in here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of sketch in where her neck is at. And I'm looking at where it connects to her head at. So I have this jawline area and then this line kind of down here. Like this. Okay, and then I am doing the same thing over here. Remember, we don't want to make it too tiny. We don't want it to look like it's coming out of her chin. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start working on her hairline. Now, when I start with a hairline, I typically start with a part just so I know I start having places to connect it to. Okay, I'm going to go over here, and her part is on this side, so I'm going to kind of look at how her part hits with her eyebrow, right? And if it's in the middle, you're going to go with the middle. Hers is a little further out this way, so it's going to kind of come out this right over here. Okay, and I'm going to start drawing in her hairline. Okay, and so I want to look at how much forehead I can see and how much I can't see, right? And so it kind of looks like it comes down this way a little. And this is too straight of lines, so I'm going to bring this down a tiny bit and round it out a little bit more. And then it comes down here, and her bangs kind of hit the corner of her eyebrow, right? So that's what I have here. Okay, and so maybe you have like a little piece kind of going this way, right? Because she has a little bit of this going on. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw in her left ear. I'm going to leave the right ear for a little bit, but her left ear, okay, I can see, I want to start, remember it goes between these two lines, but I want to start it below this line so I can go up, kind of like when you're drawing a heart, right? Like if you were drawing this half of a heart, you have to start down and then work your way up. You don't start at the top of the heart and work around. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down here, and I'm looking at her ear specifically. So the top part kind of comes out here just a little, not too far, but just a little bit, right? And then kind of angles back in this way, kind of, and then curves down here a little bit more, like that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start adding in pieces of her hair. Okay, so I do have a piece of her hair that goes in front of her ear. So I'm going to sketch this in first because it's kind of closest to us. Okay, and I'm going to draw this as a full like piece of hair. So I'm going to follow the line that I see here, and it kind of comes down like this. Okay, and then I'm going to add in this other side here to it. Okay, so I've made a strand of hair here. Okay, so not just a line, but kind of like a little tendril, a little chunk of hair. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of hair on top of our line here. So it's going to go just a tiny bit above, like this. Okay, and again, I'm looking at how her hair is shaped, right? So it stays pretty close to her head. And then out here, it kind of angles out here a little bit more. She has some like waves going on. Okay, and then it kind of angles down here really close to this, and then angles back out this way, like that. Okay, don't color this in just yet. We'll get there. Okay, on this side, I'm going to draw in the rest of her hairline. Okay, so it kind of comes down here. I'm looking at how far it is away from her eye, so I don't want to get super close to her eye if it's not supposed to be super close. And then her kind of goes down this way. Okay, now we can't see her full ear on the right side. We can only see the bottom part. So I'm kind of angling this down here. And then from the bottom line, I'm going to draw in where her kind of like earlobe is here, like this. Okay, so this is part of her ear. Maybe we have like this little shadow up here, right? If you want to draw in her earring, you can see that. You can see this one just barely over here. Okay, and then this, I'm going to continue down because I can kind of see the line of the hair in front this way, and it kind of comes down like this. Okay, now I'm going to draw the top. I'm going to add a little bit above, again, looking at how her hair is, right? And her hair kind of comes down and goes like this, right? And I'm going to bring this in just a little bit more. So bring this right down this way. It kind of angles down this way. Okay, now we're going to start adding in her hair. This is really important. If your person that you're drawing has long hair, make sure that they have long hair in the drawing. So use long strokes. If the person has short hair, right, you're going to use little tiny bits, right? So for the eyebrows, we're using little short pencil lines like this to draw in the eyebrows, okay? But if it's like long hair up here, you would draw longer lines, okay? So I'm going to draw where her hair starts and the direction that it goes in. And I'm going to start down here. Okay, so I'm kind of going down this way. So we have her bangs that go here, right? And then it kind of angles out this way because we have that little bit of skin that we can see on her forehead. And then if you notice on her hair, it's tucked behind her ear a little bit. So we can actually, using our head shape that we have here, we can actually kind of stop here for a little bit. Okay, so I'm stopping at this. See how I'm kind of rounding it out? Just like this. Okay, and I'm not doing too much back and forth coloring it in, right? Okay, then up here, these longer pieces are kind of what hangs over here. So I'm going to start bringing this over and down here. Right, so I'm kind of adding these lines in here, just like this. And then I'm following this down here. Now this one's lighter, so I'm going to kind of keep it there for now. Okay, but do you see how these lines end here? And then we have these lines that come down here. So it actually kind of looks like her hair is tucked in a little bit, right? And I can darken this up just a tiny bit here to show that there's a little bit of a hair shadow going on. So it actually looks like it's tucked behind her ears. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, then I'm going to, I have these lines here. So I follow this all the way down. Now this area here that's closer to her face, I'm just following the lines that her hair makes here. Just like this. Okay, and I'm kind of leaving this space a little bit lighter for now just because I don't want it to blend in too much on my practice drawing here. Okay, but I'm just using these lines. I'm not coloring it in like it's a coloring book, right? I'm just kind of adding these lines here. Okay, now on this side, this part of hair kind of is on top and it comes down like this. Okay, so we're following these lines down like this. Okay, and I have a couple pieces that kind of come back here and it looks like it angles down this like this way. Okay, so I'm just filling this in here. Kind of extending these out this way. Now I don't want to have, did you see how I had some lines going on here? I don't want them to leave like that because her hair doesn't really fully look like that. I have like one strand, but I'm going to just bring it down here. So it looks like that's what her hair is doing. So it kind of rolls around this way. It's like an optical illusion. And then the hair behind her ear kind of goes the opposite. It doesn't go this direction. It kind of comes back this way a little bit. Right, and that's how you can kind of make hair look a little bit different than just plain lines, right? You can actually show some depth, some dimension in the hair, okay, just because of how the lines are. Okay, and it makes it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and erase this through here. Okay, and in the picture, we can't really see her shoulders, so we're not going to worry about that. If you're drawing a picture on your next couple of slides where you can see their shoulders, go ahead and add in their shoulders and like the collar of their shirt, right, or the top part of their shirt. Okay, so that's how you draw a more realistic person based on how they actually look in real life, right? So obviously she's not like 100% like Emma Watson. That's okay. But she does look a lot more specific to Emma Watson. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to move on to the next slide. And there are 3 ladies on that slide, and you're going to choose just one of them to draw. You're going to take about 10, maybe 12 minutes to draw out that whole person. Okay, once you're finished with that, you're going to move on to the guys on the next slide. You're going to choose one of those 3 guys, and you'll draw a picture here of one of those 3 guys. Okay, then on the last slide, you'll move over to this section and draw one of those elderly people there. Okay, when you turn in this assignment, you'll turn in a screenshot, I guess not a screenshot, a picture of this as well as the picture from the first video that shows that where we divided our paper in half and you drew a picture by yourself and a picture together. Okay, so you'll turn in all of those to get full credit. If you're missing any of those, whenever I grade yours, I will make sure that I put that's why it's missing so you can go back and add to it. Okay, so you'll submit 2 pictures for this. Okay, See you later.